Imagine waking up from a dead sleep to banging on your front door and explosions in your backyard.
Do you open the door? Do you grab a gun? The decision you make may well dictate whether you live or die.
Investigative reporter Morgan Lowe takes us inside a real-life situation like that one with deadly consequences.
It's the morning, May 5th, 2011. The Pima County SWAT team serving a search warrant. Inside, they say a dangerous man. The enforcer for a drug trafficking organization. The door goes down. Gunfire erupts. "71 shots fired, and the suspect is dead." A news release issued that afternoon reads, the SWAT team entered the residence and was confronted by Jose Guerena, who shot at them with an automatic AR-15 assault rifle. But that version of events would not last long. Within days of the shooting, the official story of what took place here began to fall apart. Now, 18 months later, there are serious questions about whether an innocent man died here and whether the SWAT team should have been called to begin with. 4 days after that first news release came out, PCSD issued an updated statement. It read, Guerena's rifle had the safety on. Turns out he had not fired his weapon.
Was he the muscle for a drug trafficking organization?
Absolutely not. And it was something that they have manufactured after the fact, after the shooting, in order to justify why they were there.
And why the SWAT team was there is the center of a $20 million lawsuit filed by attorney Christopher Sleppy on behalf of Jose Guerena's widow.
That day was the worst day of my life.
This is part of Vanessa Guerena's videotaped deposition.
And that's when I saw these persons at the window. That's when I yelled at Jose to wake up.
And what you're about to see is that while this was going on outside, it may not have been so unusual for Jose to run down the hallway inside with his AR-15 in tow.
Vanessa thought it was a home invasion.
And Jose was an Iraq war vet, a Marine who served 2 combat tours.
Boom. They breach the door, see him startled with a weapon. And then just dump ammo.
According to the search warrant, PCSD narcotics officers had been investigating a drug trafficking organization involving Jose's brothers. They were the main targets. The search warrant reads, this group of individuals has been surveilled for a 6-month period. There's no pattern to suggest that a legitimate work routine exists. No one ever went to a place of business and stayed for any significant period of time. But Jose did have a job. He had worked at a copper mine for years, pulling 12-hour shifts on the overnight schedule, and had worked all night the morning the SWAT team showed up at his home.
What should that tell me?
Well, it's a number of things. One, he may not be the muscle of a drug organization.
Sleppy argues investigators should have known that. What they did know about him is unclear. During depositions, deputies contradicted each other when asked about what they were told about Guerena during a briefing before the raid.
Sergeant Tebow talked about the fact that he felt that the residence at the Redwater address was the muscle, meaning it was, the people we can anticipate might have weapons, or those that it was their function to protect the organization.
Did you ever tell anyone that Jose Guerena was the muscle of the organization?
No, I didn't. They believed that the person there would be armed and most likely would not comply.
When you were there with the SWAT officers, did anyone say anything about the Redwater house is a very dangerous house?
No.
Did anyone say to you that The Redwater House is where the muscle of the organization lives.
No.
Conflicting stories make it impossible to know who is telling the truth. But we showed the video of the raid to a former SWAT officer.
First of all, tactically, they weren't in the right position.
Jess Torres worked on the DPS SWAT team for years.
They should be all on one side, not stacked up in the center.
Torres says the officer's formation tells him the SWAT team did not believe this was a particularly dangerous target.
Does this raise questions to you as to whether the SWAT team should have been there to begin with?
Yes, it definitely does, because the intelligence was poor.
Torres says a SWAT team should only use forced entry on a search warrant if there is specific information about the target that requires such a high-risk move.
You think things would have worked out a little differently had they just banged on the door and done a regular search warrant?
Absolutely.
In the end, the family contends Jose was asleep after working all night. The SWAT team woke him up. He and his wife thought they were the victims of a home invasion, and his military training caused him to grab his gun.
His rifle was on safety. Does that tell us anything about his intent?
It's likely with his training, and especially doing 2 tours in Iraq, that yes, he did not intend to use that weapon.
I spoke to the commander who ordered the SWAT team to raid that house. He said he still believes this was the right move, and he says he has evidence that Jose Guerena was a narcotics trafficker who brought drugs up from Mexico and took money back south. When asked about his evidence, he said much of it was testimony from a confidential informant. For CBS 5 Investigates, I'm Morgan Lowe.